Hey guys, it's Coach Clay and
Coach Phil. What's up? How's everyone doing?
we are here for a new episode of Coach's Corner. But I want you to do something first. I want you to smash the subscribe button because we need subscribers.
If you like the video, like the video.
Please. So anyways, today, from all the requests we got during our last few videos, we're going to go over general dieting techniques, what is a diet, how to set up your diet. This is for the everyday person. This is not just for contest prep. This is for anybody out there wanting to lose weight, gain weight, whatever your goal is. We're going to go over some basics. We're going to start out with that, and we're going to branch into some other episodes following this that will help you out. So let's get started. When setting up a diet, one of the main things that I know Phil and I look at is a person's BMR. What is that?
So that stands for your basal metabolic rate. Now that is how much energy your body burns if you're doing nothing. That's no activity. If you were to lay in bed and do absolutely nothing all day, that is the basic calories your body needs to live.
Yep.
Now the next step in finding how many calories you need is going to be your TDEE, which stands for
Total Daily Energy Expenditure. So that is the energy that you expend throughout the day, including your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, and your activity that you do through a day. And so how do we figure this out? That's the first thing, because we're throwing these at you, BMR, TDEE, what is it? Well, let's talk about this. Your BMR, you go online, you go into google.com, Google search, and type in BMR calculator. Okay, hit enter, and it's going to give you one of about 3 different calculations BMR is calculated at, and it's going to give you an idea of what you do every day or what your body burns every day. And most of them give you 3 more factors underneath, which will say sedentary, and this would be your TDEE. And it'll say moderately active, this is your TDEE, or you're active or extremely active, and this is your TDEE, to give you an idea. However, we're in a much more modern age. You see this right here?
these fancy schmancy watches. These help a lot.
They're a dime a dozen these days. We see everybody wearing them. It doesn't matter what brand you wear. I mean, from Apple Watch to Fitbit to the Samsung Watch, Garmin.
All of them. They all do the same thing.
They all have calculators in them that calculate either your TDEE or just your activity. So Apple's an activity calculator.
Correct.
So it does not count what your body is burning itself on your active calories. It only counts what you're burning, and I think it's in red, right?
Yeah.
It shows up in red usually on these watches. I haven't worn mine since my last prep.
Yeah, it's red.
So that active burn you add to your BMR. And that makes it super easy, guys. So I know it sounds like oversimplified, but it's that easy.
And now with your TDEE, this is not including your exercising and your cardio. That is what it takes for you to get out of bed, what you do around work. So now when he was saying sedentary, maybe you work a desk job where you sit for most of the day. Intermediate, in the middle there, maybe you have, I don't know, a personal trainer or something like that where you're kind of like walking around throughout the day. And then extreme would be like a construction worker where you're just out in the heat, just working all day, burning
a nurse,
a lot of calories. A nurse where you're just always moving.
On your feet.
And so those numbers are going to be your TDEE on top of your BMR. Now it's important to highlight, he said that is an estimate.
Yes.
All of these numbers are estimates. The BMR calculator that you use, there's 2 to 3 main ones on how they're going to calculate it, as in the formula for the information that you're going to input. Now these are formulas based on some old scientific dude that came up with this
Yeah.
A long time ago. So please remember, these are not perfect numbers. This is a good starting spot for you to put your numbers at. So then from there, you will slowly make adjustments based on your results.
Let me give you an idea, guys. There's no perfect BMR number or TDEE number.
And
So,
every person is different.
like even my InBody, you know, a $16,000 machine sitting out here in our lobby, that isn't perfect. It gives you an idea based on the calculation that it uses, but it's nothing but an estimate of what you burn. Different metabolic rates, different things offset your BMR, dramatically. But you need a number to start with, because if you don't have a starting number, you don't have a starting point. So now, what is the idea when you're building your diet? If you're wanting to lose weight, you want to be in a deficit of your TDEE. And if you're wanting to gain weight, you're wanting to be above, in a surplus of calories above your TDEE. So you have to set that accordingly. Now, depending on how aggressive you want your weight loss is where you set your calories.
I normally recommend a good start for a general dieter is roughly about 500 calories below your TDEE.
Yes.
Now, why would I say 500?
Because that is 1 pound of fat per week.
Because
1 pound of fat is
3,500 calories. So there's 7 days in a week. If you do a 500 cal deficit each day, that gives you a deficit of 3,500 calories total weekly.
which is 1 pound of fat. And now remember this, and I think that's why his finger is up. It's not 1 pound of weight.
Correct.
It's 1 pound of fat, because water will come off too. You lower your carbs, you drop water instantly. And I'll use keto diet as an example. I can have someone down 6 pounds in a matter of 3 days on keto. That's all water weight, only a little bit of fat, because I'm not putting them in a 10,500 per day calorie deficit. They're not burning 10,500 per day, so they're not losing 6 pounds of fat in 2 days. You know, it's just that water's falling off. So you have to remember, the idea of a diet needs to be always this. If you're losing weight, the idea is to save the muscle mass and burn the fat, not to just burn weight.
Correct.
Save the muscle mass and to burn fat.
Now that is important because the BMR is raised for the more muscle mass you have. So that's why we always, even with general clients, we have you weight training to build muscle, not to burn fat. You're not lifting weights to burn fat. You use cardio for that. But the more muscle you have means the more calories you burn, and that's why people with more muscle generally are more, it's more difficult for somebody with more muscle to put fat on, is because you burn more calories just sitting here doing nothing just because you have more muscle tissue.
Exactly.
So it's important that when you're dieting that you keep all of your muscle tissue, because if you're in such a caloric deficit in which you're burning off your muscle tissue as well, one, you're gonna feel like crap, and two, you're more likely to rebound when you're done, because when you go back to eating normally
or raising your calories to your maintenance level, it's no longer your maintenance level, because one, you're carrying less fat, which means you're moving less weight from point A to point B. Two, you're carrying less muscle, which muscle takes calories to keep. So you're a double-edged sword, so you're much slower down. And there's another thing to add there, which is metabolic shutdown. So as you return to your normal calories, which you think would be your maintenance, you've experienced a little bit of metabolic shutdown or turn down, meaning that your body now requires less energy to do the same tasks. Now that is compounded by, yes, losing the fat, so you're lighter. Yes, losing muscle, so now you're lighter. Losing water, so now you're lighter. So every task you do burns less calories, but also because the metabolism, the metabolic aspect, adapts to what we put in it. So that is why I like carb cycling for my general dieters and for prep clients. But for general dieters, I don't like to jump into keto with them unless they have a medical condition that requires keto, like some of my diabetics that we diet for a few doctors will jump into keto right away because it gives their pancreas and their body insulin a time that it doesn't have to try to work or try to do its job. And I also do it for cancer patients because keep the inflammation down. Carbs can cause inflammation. Other than those two reasons, I really don't pull out carbs. Like I have a lot of people with ulcerative colitis. I don't want to pull their carbs away too much. And I have a couple people with fibromyalgia, and I don't like to pull too much of their carbs away, but I like to pull enough that inflammation doesn't occur because that's a major issue with that. So other than medically necessary, tongue twister here. Other than it being a medical necessity, I don't like to pull down carbs right away. I like to keep them in to keep your metabolism going and not to allow shutdown. And I like to go to a carb cycle where we have a high day and a low day, or even a high and a medium low day. Depends on your athletic ability in the gym of what I'm going to give you. And that's a decision you need to make is how intense are your training sessions? How intense are your cardio sessions to account for how much food you need? I'm going to give you an example. When I do a leg day, I average a 1,200 calorie burn, and my leg days are long. They're not short. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, me and my training partner set in to do our leg day. We start with a warm-up of hip mobility, which include side-to-side lunges and goblet squats with your butt against your heels to really get your hips stretched out for the squats. Then we go into squats. We did 8 sets of heavy squats, 3-minute rest between. It's a long time. That's 24 minutes of just rest time in between those squats. But those squats are heavy. We're burning tons of calories. It's taking us that long to recover. So then we go from there to another exercise, which we're pushing really, really heavy weight again. So we're burning more and more calories by pushing that heavy weight on that leg press. And we're doing drop sets at the end, which totally fatigue you and start to speed up your metabolism. Since our intensity is so high, my leg days, I have 300 grams of carbs more than what I would have on a arm day. My arms aren't as big as my legs. They're not going to burn as much more, and I can't push the same amount of weight. I'm not going to get the caloric burn. Therefore, that's a 300 carb offset for someone my size. My arm days, I burn 500 to 600 calories in a session, where my legs, I'm burning 12 to 1300 in the session. So you see the offset is if 300 extra grams of carbs is 900 calories. And I am a good 600 calorie difference in my training, sometimes up to 800 calories difference. So I want to make sure I'm in a surplus because my goal is to add muscle now. So I'm making sure I eat to compensate for what I'm training. Now you use this fancy little thing here, or you can throw a guesstimate out there by looking at how hard you're training. If you're training really, really, really hard, you're burning a lot of calories. If you have to have longer rest periods because you can't breathe, you're burning more calories. Your rate of exertion is so much higher, means you're burning more calories, okay? So that's where, like, let's say you're doing a spin bike session for 20 minutes and you're only on level 2, only doing 80 RPMs. You're only gonna burn, 110 calories in those 20 minutes. But if you're doing step mill and you're doing kickbacks and you're on level 6 to 8, you might be burning 240 to 250 calories in those 20 minutes. Which means now you require more food because you're working harder. That makes sense?
Absolutely.
Easy explanation?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make this easy for you guys, so please put questions below. I know a lot of times we talk, or especially I have a tendency to talk in an understandable way, however we're going to say this, where you can't understand me because there's so much detail in it, and I want to put this in the easiest way possible for everybody. So my point to everything is the harder you train, the more food you need, and you're still going to lose weight.
Absolutely. And so touching on the metabolic thing before we move on to the next thing is, when you first start your program, it is important to understand, either for yourself or your client, where their metabolic rate is at where you start. Are you working with somebody who eats 1 to 2 meals every day and they're not losing weight because they're completely under eating, or are they overweight because they've been eating too much?
Correct.
And now that's important to start your program, because somebody who's under eating, the first thing I'm going to do is get their metabolism going again.
Right.
I want to make them eat a lot. And normally what we'll hear is the first 3, 4, 5 days of their program, I can't eat at all.
I'm hearing it right now from several people. I'm full. I'm stuffed.
By day 6 or 7, what you'll hear is they're like, oh, I can eat it all now. Good.
By day 14?
Day 14, they're like, I'm hungry. And
starving.
I'm perfect. You know what I'm going to do? Give them more food. And you know what happened on the scale? They dropped weight. It happens every time. Every person's always mind blown. So that is definitely something that you need to take into consideration. If you're a person who undereats, you need to force yourself, even though it may feel like a lot of food, based on these numbers that you get, you need to get that food in, because when you go into starvation mode, your body will not allow the fat to come off. Yeah. So that's really important to understand about somebody's metabolic rate when starting their program.
All right, so we talked about your metabolic shutdown and how to metabolically pick you up. We talked about your BMR and your TDEE, and now you're saying, well, how do I set my diet up? Because I'm going to know how many calories I need, because of a calculator is going to tell me, and I'm going to know if I'm wanting to lose weight, I'm going 500 below, wanting to gain weight, I'm going 500 over. That's good little steps to use, guys. 500 is a nice, easy number because the way it works out 7 days a week in pounds. You can monitor how much pounds you lose and how much pounds you gain, and kind of know if you're on the right track with your weight loss or your weight gain. So the way you're going to set this up, and this is the way I personally set this up, and this is not a scientific explanation, even though we use a lot of science-based stuff, and I'm going to tell you where I get my stuff from, which is called the International Sports Science Network. So,
and this is not the only way we do things. We're kind of giving you guys a very easy, basic way to get you to write your own program.
This is so you can do it yourself and lose weight. So first of all, I start people's protein between 1.4 and 1.7 grams of their body weight if they're in a normal body fat situation, meaning 17% or below usually. Mm-hmm. For girls, I give you an extra 4%, so if you're 21% or below, okay, that's still normal, perfectly normal, promise you guys. 17% is not a high body fat. Not a healthy body fat for a male would be that 17% range. So don't think, oh, that's a lot of fat, because you hear low numbers talked about a lot of times. To be in those low numbers, you struggle to get there. That's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about the normal person, 17% to 21% body fat. We're talking about bringing in your protein. I like to use a 1.4 to 1.7 for those. For people who are extremely heavy, I actually usually use 1 pound and 1 gram. So it's 1-to-1 ratio of their weight. And the reason why is because I have to account for more fat and less muscle mass. And I'm wanting to feed the muscle the protein, plus protein is broken down and more waste is created while protein is broken down than anything else. Plus, if you're going to use protein for an energy source, it actually burns more calories for the body to do that. It's harder for the body to break down protein into an energy source than it is for carbs. Carbs are very easily broken down and used for an energy source, because that is the point of them. That's the reason why next we talk about carbs and we pull down your carbs. But we're going to do that in a second, because you need to know protein's how many calories?
4 calories per 1 gram of protein.
So when you're calculating your diet out, we're going to use a 175 pound male. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
So you're going to do 175 pounds. Let's say, man, I wish I should have brought an InBody in here with somebody's total daily expenditure on there and their BMR. That would have been great to use. We just used some person out there that did an InBody today. But I don't have one in here. So we're going to do 175. And let's say we start at that 1.5 gram range. So that lets you know how much protein you're going to do. 175 times 1.5 equals, and that'll give you your grams. So you can do it on a calculator. So what I'm going to give you guys is how many calories and protein you're intaking.
So 262 on the protein is the 1.5, which is in between the 1.4 and the 1.7.
And do a multiplication of 4 to tell them how many calories that is.
And so that will be 1,500.
No, 1,050.
1,050, sorry.
1,050 calories of your diet
of protein
is in protein. Now, let's say most people's, most males, average male size, that's exactly where we're going to want them, is right around that 1,000 mark of intake through protein. And then we're going to split the rest up between carbs and fats. Now, when selecting your carbs, I'm going to remind you of something. You're dieting down, you're going to want to pick carbs that have some nutrients in them, or you're going to want to take supplements. A multivitamin is a very smart thing to start with. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I diet down on rice a lot. Rice doesn't have a lot of nutrients, therefore I take supplements to give me those nutrients. But I also use a lot of veggie carbs. Veggies have a lot of nutrients. While dieting, veggies make a two-prong act. One, they're filling and you can have more of them as a carb source and you're going to get full by them. Actually a three-prong act. Two, they're going to have antioxidants, minerals, and vitamins in them to help your micronutrients. And three, you can pretty much get all the fiber you need in a day by eating tons of vegetables, and you're going to feel full longer than if you use a starchier carb that has less fiber in it. So,
correct.
Let's talk about carbs for a little bit. When we have someone dieting, and we have this 175 pound guy dieting, we just use 1,000, I'm using a piece of paper here guys, 1,050 calories. Let's say his TDEE, let's put it at 2,500 even. You think that sounds good?
Yeah.
Or 2,250?
Yeah, that's what 250 is.
We'll use 2,500. The reason why, guys, is I can make it, we're going to make a 2,000 calorie diet here. So, to make a 2,000 calorie diet, I always start my general dieters that are wanting to lose weight. I start them always right at 50 grams of fat. Now, why 50? 50 is a healthy range. It's where you can still make your hormones, regulate things in your body, but it's not an overload of fat. So let me add that. It's not an overload of fat. It's not too much fat. It's not enough where you're going to store fat. You still have to pull some for energy sources. Okay? So 50 grams, it's on the low side if you're wanting to lose weight. And I'm talking about losing weight today more than gaining. So I want to make sure that I'm clear on that, because that's the questions that we've had coming over and over. So how do you figure out how many calories are in fat, Phil?
There are 9 calories per gram of fat. So if we're doing 50 grams of fat times 9, that's going to give us 450 calories. So now that brings our total calories to 1,500. So for his TDEE is 2,500.
That means you got
a caloric deficit of 500. So that means
his low carb point should be 125. Mm-hmm. That would make 125 grams of carbs. Okay, so that would make him in a deficit, which to me is low. So when I start someone's diet and I see this,
125 is like
yep,
child's play to me.
Right. So when I see this tells me that this person has probably a sit-down job. It tells me that this person's activity has been low. Now we did their TDEE, and that's where it came out to. So with this person here, I would actually start their diet about 250 grams of carbs. The reason why is that would be putting him back at maintenance. He's not going to lose any weight right away, but he probably will.
Yep, because of the metabolic speed up.
Yep.
Because
I'm going to feed him those 250 grams of carbs consistently for a good week. Maybe I want 2 weeks out of it. And I want his body weight to start going down that second week when his metabolism speeds up, because now I'm training his body. Okay? Now, if this number would have came down to like I'll use my TDEE. My TDEE in prep is 25 plus 16, 4,100 when I start my preps. 4,100. So now if we used me, you know, I give myself 350 grams of protein. So what is that? How many calories? You got your calculator out there. So that's
1,400.
That's
calories.
1,400 calories. And I usually start around 50 grams of fat for myself, which is 450. So guys, we're only at 1,850. So my carbs, put 500 on there.
What did you say, 4,100?
Yeah, right at 4,100 is my TD. And I usually start at 500 grams of carbs, which is 2,000. So if I did 2,000 calories and carbs, that's going to put me at 2,850. So I'm going to be down, about 300 calories starting out, right?
Yeah.
So I'm down roughly 300 calories with 500 grams of carbs. Now I'm 250 pounds when I start my prep, so it's a little bit different than a 175 pound guy, 75 pounds of muscle difference. So this guy that is at 125, honestly, I'd want that to be as he's in really good shape. Mm-hmm. So we're training that metabolism. This is where most people fail at, is they jump into a diet
and they just go
right into
down.
weight loss. That's the only thing they're concerned about. So you're losing your muscle at this point, and you're killing out your metabolism from the get-go.
And you might start off strong. The thing is if you start off too low like that, you don't have anywhere to go besides down. So you run yourself into you back yourself into a wall, because if you start yourself too low, one, you might have good results in the beginning, but if your metabolism's already slow, it's just going to slow it down more.
It's going to get agonizing too when you really want to, you've lost 6 pounds, you lost 8 pounds, you lost 12 pounds, now you're at 14 pounds and you're stalled out for 4 weeks. Well, at this point, the problem is your metabolism is slower than when it started, so it's going to take a lot less food. Where what I just pitched to you, I know was not anything that you even thought of before, is I raised his food. I doubled his carb intake, and I'm going to do that for a good, like I told you, at least 1 week, usually 14 days. And I want to see at the end of that 14 days weight loss.
Absolutely.
You want to know why? Because then I know I'm getting his metabolism going the right way. I want to hear from him, I'm hungry by the end of those 14 days. And then a lot of times I add in a little bit more food after that instead of taking him down, because I know he's going to lose weight. But what I do to offset that is I'll throw in maybe 5 minutes of cardio extra a day to offset the food I throw in. So now we're working his metabolism with more food that he has to break down and giving him more output, changing his TDEE because he's working more.
And
we're doing this go ahead. So.
Sorry, I was gonna say it's also important to not just crash yourself right away, especially if you're trying to grow muscle, because one, you need to eat food to grow muscle. If you can lean out and grow muscle. It's called recomp.
Right.
Now, if you just start pulling all your food away, instead of building muscle, you're going to start burning muscle tissue. So that's also really important.
Something that we believe in and we talk a lot about is recomping. I don't think I ever straight diet someone down. My goal is always recomping them. And that's changing your composition of your body. I'm recomping your body, giving you a different composition, giving you more muscle, less fat.
Now, the next step in this process, so you got how many grams of protein, how many grams of carbs, how many grams of fat. Now where do we go? The next question you're going to ask yourself is, and I'm going to do this the basic way, how many meals a day do you want to eat? So you're going to take your 262 grams of protein, your 125 grams of carbs, and your 50 grams of fat. The most basic way to do this is, say you want to eat 5 meals a day. You're going to take your 262 divided by 5, 125 divided by 5, 50 divided by 5.
And that's your average.
Spread it out across the day for how many meals you want, and make those numbers fit for each meal.
And that is the basics.
Most basic way to do that.
Now, you want me to give them a little more advanced way that'll help them a little bit?
Yeah.
You think we should talk
so
about
the
that?
way we would break down a program, and
Right.
I know what he's going to say, but I'll let him break down a little bit more of an advanced way besides breaking everything down evenly.
All right, so the way that I do this is when I write your diet, I'm going to give you a little bit more carbs before you train than every other meal, a little bit more carbs after your training. So let's say you're eating 5 meals a day. I'm going to pull 50% of your carbs around just those 2 meals. So those 2 meals are higher carb than other meals because 50% of your carbs are consumed pre and post workout, peri-workout nutrition. I'm going to take your fat and I'm going to take most of your fat and split it between another 2 meals, which is meal 1
And meal 5.
and meal 5. So now you have, let's say you work out afternoon after you work. You're going to have meal 1 and 2 about equal carbs, but meal 1's going to have more fats. Meal 2's going to have less fats. Equal protein between the 2. Then meal 3 is going to have near no fats, but a lot more carbs than meal 1 and meal 2, but equal carbs to meal 4. Meal 4, again, is going to be no fats, but equal protein to all 5 meals. But meal 5 is going to have a surplus of fats, just like meal 1 did, and equal carbs to meal 1 and 2. So now that was confusing as hell for you. Did you catch it? Rewatch it, write it down. Rewatch it, write it down. After about the 3rd time you watch it, I've added minutes up on YouTube so they like me, and you've got it down.
The advice he just gave there is really, really important, and I don't want to go into too depth of detail because this is supposed to be a very basic video. The number one thing I do not want to see is do not put fats with your carbs around your training meal. That's going to be the number one biggie. When you load a lot
Don't
of...
slow it down.
First of all, the carbs that we're going to use around your training are going to be simple carbs that can be broken down easily and used for energy while you're training. That's why we're doing this. If you're adding fats with simple carbs,
It's a recipe to get fat.
it's a recipe to add fat. The fats in the morning are going to help your hormones, and it's going to help the morning carbs slowly digest throughout the morning. And then your evening fats with the little bit of carbs is going to slowly let your body absorb the carbs throughout the night, because once again, just like we talked about, the carbs or the fats mixed with the carbs is going to slow down the digestion rate of your carbs, which is what you don't want while you're training, because you want them to be easily digested and absorbed quickly so that you can put them to use.
And the importance about this is we're maintaining blood sugar overnight and early morning, so you have a long period of time your blood sugar is maintained and you're dropping body fat. When we come to training, we're not maintaining blood sugar, we're actually spiking it through the simple carbs. So now that we spike your blood sugar, your insulin's going to come up. Your body is instantly more anabolic, meaning it's going to gain. And what are we gaining? We're wanting to gain muscle still, because we're recomping. We're gaining muscle and we're losing fat. Don't ever, guys, try for that quick drop. I mean, I've done it with people. I mean, we put people on stage and we did 13 days, the year before last with Caitlin, and she won the show.
We just talked about that Monday.
Yeah, so we did, we can do it, and we do it for certain circumstances. If you learn not to do it for your general diet, for you who's the general person out there that's not wanting to compete, you're going to be successful in the long run. And that's what I'm concerned about. Anybody, any person can lose weight. Any person can lose weight. And they can lose weight extremely fast. Everybody can. It's all about input versus output, okay? But to maintain that weight and to be healthy while doing it takes time. It takes you creating a healthy metabolism, it takes you being active, you going in there and challenging yourself into the gym so you can have more food so you're more healthy. You have to rely on less supplements the healthier you are. When you can't have a lot of food, you're going to be relying on supplementation, which actually brings up the bank account. Takes down the bank account, because it brings up the cost of dieting. If you're dieting hard, you need to have your multivitamins, and a good one, not just some brand out there. You're going to be spending $30 on a good multivitamin. You're going to be spending money on fiber sources if you're dieting that hard that you're not getting enough fiber because you're near no carbs, which is where your fiber is. You're going to be spending money on, different, let's say L-carnitine is one of them. L-carnitine is what's responsible for shuttling your fat so it can be used as an energy source. It's your gasoline for your mitochondria, is what we refer to it as. You're going to be spending money on all this stuff, which we're going to go over in another video of how to set up the proper supplementation. But we want you to learn from the beginning to build your metabolism, bring the weight off gradually, bring up the muscle mass, and decrease the fat and decrease the supplement use while doing it, so you're healthier and healthier and healthier, and only use the supplements that you need so you can do it on a budget and anybody can lose weight.
The only thing I'm going to add on the supplement thing, because 99% of people always ask, supplements are less than 1% of what's going to make you lose weight.
Yes.
Less than 1%. There are some things in which we're not even going to touch on right now. There is gray area. But guys, just because you're on a fat burner, just because you're on L-carnitine, that is not what is making you lose weight. This stuff right here, your diet, your training, and your cardio is where you're going to lose weight.
He's 100% right. The word supplement comes from supplement your diet. It means what you're missing in your diet. It's not to help you lose weight, it's to keep you healthy. And
I guess kind of the last thing to touch on, we've got a lot of great information here. This is a lot of great information. You can easily put together a program from all the information we gave you. Now, the last important thing to this program that we kind of just help you set up here is the big C word: consistency. Consistency is the last thing besides diet, cardio, and training to make you lose weight. If you're doing this for 6 days a week and you're one of those people that it's like, I'm going to do 6 days on and 1 day off. If you, I can go to Chipotle. I can eat perfect all 7 days. I go to Chipotle, I throw down a 1,500 cal Chipotle bowl. Guess what? I just went from losing a whole pound to maybe losing a half pound.
Right.
Because if you step outside of the program that you have for yourself,
yep,
and this goes the same for if you're trying to gain weight. If my TDEE is 2,500 and I'm trying to hit 3,000, and say for 6 days I hit all 3,000 calories, but on Sunday I slack and I miss a meal or two,
yep,
I'm not going to gain weight that week, because
it's
the total week is what you're looking at, that 3,500 calorie for weight loss. And if you go out and you throw down 1,000 calories,
I agree wholeheartedly with you, Phil. And I'm going to add this out there. I'm going to add to it because it's along the same aspect he's talking about. I tell all my clients this, and I don't do general diet clients anymore. I only do competitors. However, our team does do general diets. When I did more general diets, I used to tell them this constantly, and this is one of the things I want to embed in your mind. Everybody's going to tell you this, oh, you can just have this, you can just have this. And if you did it every time somebody wanted you to do that, you would never be on your diet. You'd always be on another diet and not dropping weight. What you save your cheats for are special occasions. Every month there's something special. So you're going to get something every month as a general dieter, but it doesn't have to be weekly, and it doesn't have to be daily. It doesn't have to be day after day. Every day someone's going to say to you, if you're doing a diet that you set up that's to lose weight, oh, you can have this one won't hurt you. You got to walk away from that. I promise you, you're going to hear it so much. Or come out with us tonight, just come out with us tonight. You hear it so much that you will never get in shape or achieve your goals because you're constantly bending to other people. You need to set up in your mind, okay, on January it's going to be New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. That's the only days I cheat. Okay, in February I'm saving it for Valentine's Day. In March I'm saving it for St. Patrick's Day. And April, Easter. Something along that line. In May you're setting up for something else. You're always looking. Set it up for special occasions and give yourself that once a month. Once you have achieved your goals, then you can go weekly. It's much easier to maintain.
And once you get back to the maintenance level and you start reverse dieting back up, you'll be surprised at how much food you can eat and you won't gain weight. But you have to get down first. And let's be honest, there will be points where it's going to be hard. If it was easy, nobody would be overweight.
Right.
It is what it is.
It's hard.
It's very much like our competitors. When we have people stepping on stage, it is not easy. I have respect for any person who has ever stepped on stage and looked decent, because if they're shredded on that stage, they put a lot of things to the side. They dug down deep and they had to say no a lot. every person goes through
every day of every prep.
And once again, so what we're getting at here is the consistency is going to be the biggest outside factor to getting this down first, because as simply as we just covered, if you have a little thing here, a little thing there, something simple that I come across, that I know you come across, is people will either use like an oil or something, or they'll like a high calorie sauce. Say for example, man, I love honey mustard, but unfortunately 90 100 110 calories per serving, or for 2 tablespoons. Let me just use a little bit of honey mustard on this meal, and then next thing you know, it's 2 or 3 meals a day, and then you're looking at an extra couple hundred calories in just sauce per day.
Think about if you did it 5 days a week, okay? That's 500 extra calories that week. You're not going to hit that pound of fat. You're going to be less than. And then the next week, and by the time you multiply that up towards 12 weeks, you want to achieve a goal and get to a weight. Well, you set yourself up 1,200 calories, 1,400 calories as you use it more, 1,600 calories, 2,400 calories, until you're getting into the 5,000-6,000 calorie range when you add up every time you use that honey mustard. Find low calorie alternatives, find things that you like and use them. Find seasonings that you like. Seasonings are a lot less harsh than sauces. Okay, sauces have sugars in them, they have fats in them. Seasonings usually have far less. If it has 1 gram of carb, okay, that's not the end of the world. It's not going to kill you, but you don't want much over that.
And when it comes to the sauce thing, once again, you're looking at these calorie numbers. You do have to take consideration. I guess this is kind of the last thing we can throw in here. Be aware of your sauces, your drinks that you're intaking, your creamers that you're putting in your coffee.
Everything that goes in your mouth counts.
And you'd be surprised, this is only 10 calories, for example, but, if I drink 1 to 2 a day, 7 days a week, and then
0 calories.
Maybe I'm using a sauce with a couple more calories. If you add up all that little stuff, it all adds up really quick. And it's just, I'm not saying not to use any of these things, but I'm saying be mindful of these things.
I have a rule in dieting.
Well,
I don't drink calories.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I stick to 0 calorie drinks. I don't really drink any calorie drinks anymore.
Right. So I don't drink calories because I'd rather have food.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's something that I don't do when I'm dieting, is I don't drink anything with calories. So right there, you eliminate huge part of intake of calories that come in on your current diet already. Then I only use sauces that are 15 calories or less per serving. Servings have to be 2 tablespoons or more, or I don't use them. I look at the labels, I study the labels, and I don't care if it has artificial sweeteners or anything like that. I don't eat all organic. It's good for you. If you can afford that, do it. But it's not normal for everybody. It's very hard for everyone to consistently do that every day, because that even keeps you from eating out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's food coming from Cisco. It's not 100% organic, and that's where most of the restaurants are getting their places. So if you're eating out and doing things like that, let's just try to go to Publix, to Winn-Dixie, to Walmart, to any of the regular grocery stores. Get your food and eat it. If you want to be all organic, you're more than welcome to be, but the cost is what most people can't afford it, to be honest with you. When you pay, $1.99 for a pack of chicken at Sam's per pound, it's $1.99, or $7.99 at Whole Foods, which one are you going to do? Are you paying 4 times more, or are you going to pay the $1.99?
And that's just where you kind of got to
set what's your priority to you.
Of course, and we could go into so much more depth detail on that, but just try to make the best choices. Always try to choose whole food sources when you're putting food into your plan. You can always pick better food sources, but
I think we need to do a video on food sources next.
Yeah, we'll have to cover a whole
Guys,
food sources.
I think next video we'll follow this up with supplementation and food sources because they go hand in hand with what you eat and where you need to supplement. So we're going to go through that. We'll throw you that video. Guys, I hope this helps you. I have gotten an enormous amount of PMs on both Facebook and Instagram. And a couple even emails from people, which I don't know where you got my email address from, but I don't care. You can email me all about what if I am not wanting to compete, but I'm wanting to diet. That's why we threw this series in here. We actually had something else coming, and we decided to do this because it seemed urgent for a lot of people. We
got more requests for stuff like this than stepping into like advanced competition stuff. So the advanced competition will probably be our next series, but for now we're going to step back a little and do more general stuff for people, everyday people that just want to.
Yeah, we're just going to try to cover this in 3 episodes, guys. And I know they're a little long, so hang out with us. Guys, I think this is where we're going to wrap it up today because we are getting it kind of long. We're trying to keep them under 30 minutes for you guys.
This one's not. I can already tell you.
I know.
So, guys, smash the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up, hit the like if you like the video. If you have any questions, please go down in the comments. If you have anything you guys would like to see in the next videos upcoming, go ahead and tell us down below.
Yeah, start commenting, guys. I have seen a few comments lately, but I'm getting so many emails. Please comment. It helps us. We need to get our name out there. We really love doing the YouTube. We love providing information. The more comments, the more likes, the more subscribes, the more we go up on the list, more people will watch us, the more we can do. All right?
Hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and thanks for watching.
See ya.